So you want to work as a video editor, but maybe you aren't ready yet to lead an entire project on your own. Or maybe you just want to get your foot in the door, gain some experience, and honestly, pay some bills. Or maybe you like the idea of being a video editor, but rather than leaning more on the creative side, you lean more on the technical, organizational side. Either way, becoming an assistant video editor ticks all of those boxes. But what does being an assistant video editor mean? Does it involve only syncing the footage, or is there a creative element to it? And the answer really is, it does depend. So today we are diving into all of what an assistant video editor does and what kind of skills you will need to become one. So what is an assistant video editor? Now, usually when someone hears that you want to be an assistant video editor, they might think in their mind, or they might say to you, oh, cool, so you are learning to be a video editor one day. And the truth is, being an assistant video editor is an entire job in and of itself. You can live your entire life being a successful assistant video editor without feeling the need to move into that lead video editor role. While the video editor does make the most high-level creative decisions for the project, the assistant editor is mainly deep in the trenches, doing that organizational work in the background to give the lead editor that creative freedom. So while the lead video editor handles tasks like pacing a scene, creating and managing those emotional beats, and crafting the story's vibe, the assistant editor is mainly going to be handling tasks like syncing audio, sorting media, and prepping timelines for the lead video editor. Your job as the assistant video editor is to ensure that when the lead video editor sits down, everything is labeled, logged, backed up, and ready to go. So if the lead video editor is like the director of a symphony, then the assistant editor is making sure that all the music sheets are in the right order, every instrument is tuned, and the lights and the microphones are all set up and ready to go for them. Now, depending on the team or the project, you might even have to do rough cuts, adding temporary music, or prepping exports. And in smaller teams, sometimes the assistant video editors are just editors with the assistant title. So again, that's why I say this really all depends on the kind of project that you are on. But for the majority of this video, we will be thinking of an assistant video editor in the context of a bigger industry role. So moving into the day-to-day responsibilities, let's talk about ingesting and organizing footage. You're essentially kind of like the librarian of the entire project. So when the lead video editor summons you for a specific clip, for example, you know how to find it, you know where it is, and you know how to queue it up and send it over to them. As for the ingesting part, your job might be to go through the footage and transfer it to the cloud platform that they are using or to a hard drive used by the lead editor. And while this might kind of seem like an easy copy-paste job, it's actually one of the most important, because ensuring that no files are missing and every file is labeled correctly, it is such an essential job to ensure that, because it sets the tone for how the rest of the project is going to go. If the initial media management is messy, then the entire rest of the project is going to slowly collapse underneath of it. So we are making sure our files are labeled. We're making sure our folders are properly structured as the lead video editor likes them. And we're making sure that everything has a place to live. This might all sound tedious, but again, it speeds up the editing process significantly. And considering that waiting until midway through the project to start organizing your footage could potentially ruin an entire project, it makes sense why this is such a pivotal, important part of the process, and why some lead video editors won't even touch a project until all of the footage is properly organized and in its place and labeled correctly. Syncing audio and video. When doing high-end video, like for a movie or a TV show, or even this YouTube video, the audio and the video are usually recorded on two separate devices, which can make syncing more time-consuming. And basically your job as the assistant video editor is to marry the two. So you have a few options for this depending on the software that you're using. For example, you can be using the synchronization feature or the merge tool if you are working in Adobe Premiere. If you've matched the time codes, then you can utilize the auto sync feature in Avid, or you can always utilize the old school manual way of doing things, which is zooming in onto the waveform, maybe looking for a clap or something similar, matching the two, and then linking them together. One time I did a short film for some friends, and while in production, they forgot to clap the entire time. And so I had to manually sync the audio and video, not even using a clap, for the entirety of the shoot. And I had literally like a 1 hour time frame to do it. It was quite hectic. And it really welds the importance of syncing from the start of production into your brain. Creating rough cuts and string outs. So the footage comes in, you sync it, you organize it, and then before the lead video editor starts working on the project, you may be already building string outs for them. String outs help video editors review all of the available footage for a specific scene. It makes it easier for the editor to identify best shots and really see at a bird's eye view everything that they will be working with. And it involves simply placing all the shots for that particular scene on the timeline, and then of course labeling that timeline so they know what scene it is for. So when it's time for them to go into that scene, they can go into it knowing that everything is laid out for them. Everything that is available for that scene is there. And don't be surprised if the lead editor asks you to do a bit more depending on your experience. This may involve having a string out of the scene, but also having a rough cut put together of the same scene. Of course, the difference between a string out and a rough cut is that while a string out is just sort of a more raw visualization of everything shot for that scene, a rough cut is essentially the scene all put together. They may want your help seeing how you might put this scene together, and that can help them visualize the end product a bit better. So if they ask you to do this, make sure that of course you say yes and you take that on, because taking initiative tells them that you get it. You are on their side. You can be trusted with this project, not on just an assistant editor level, but on more of an assistant to them level. And if they get slammed with deadlines or overloaded with the work, you then get a chance to stand out. Managing the project timeline. Similar to when we spoke earlier about you being the librarian, this really comes to play here in you managing the entire project. The lead video editor more than likely doesn't really have time to search through scene 3 for a specific shot of that dog that's doing a trick in a very particular way that they now need for scene 5. And this again is where you come in. You, as the assistant video editor, you are tasked with not only preparing the entire project, but also maintaining it. You know exactly where to find that specific shot of that dog. You've seen it a bunch of times. You know where it lives. You know what it's labeled. You know how you can find it specifically. You may even know where in the time of that take that specific action takes place. So what else could this mean as far as maintaining the timeline in the project? It might mean adding placeholder music and knowing what placeholder music sits where and what it may be replaced with in the future. It might even mean dropping in temporary or simple transitions. It may mean swapping in improper takes for better ones. It might mean replacing temporary audio as needed. Being good at managing the timeline can make you so indispensable, because if you can prove yourself that you know where everything is in that project, so anytime anybody asks you, you know exactly where it is, it not only makes you invaluable, it makes you the kind of person that a lead video editor would really want to hold on to for future projects. So it may not sound entirely glamorous. I don't know, to me it kind of does actually, but it can really help boost your career as an assistant video editor if done right. Exports and deliverables. Speaking of sounding glamorous, exporting absolutely does not to anybody. Of course, it's not flashy, it's not creative, but it is a necessary part of the editing process. And it's an opportunity for you as the assistant video editor to make your lasting impression on the lead video editor as well as the entire project. So visualizing how that would work, the lead video editor has finished editing, everything looks good, the director is happy, but either they don't have time because they're doing other things, or maybe production doesn't want to pay the lead video editor any longer and they're whisking them off back to their home. But you have to stay because there are 5 different variants that they want exported out for the director or the producer or even the social media manager to see, and they want you to do it. So whether you're exporting out cuts for the final product or just for review, it will become an ever-growing thing because there's always usually a lot of hands in these kinds of productions, and those different versions can vary greatly. Maybe some have subtitles on them. Maybe some have background music and some don't. Maybe some are compressed in a smaller file than other ones. And then from there, for example, if you sent them out for a review, you may also be managing when the feedback comes in and organizing it so that the lead video editor can see that feedback in the way that they like to see it. Or maybe the lead video editor isn't involved at all in the feedback and you are handling the feedback if it's certain things that you can handle, like replacing graphics or adding different music and things like that. So now suddenly you've got all of these different exports for review and you need to be tracking and managing who they're going to, how you're sending them off, how many you've sent, and you need to be organizing all of those exports accordingly. So here is a general list of the kind of variants you might be asked to export out as an assistant video editor, again, all depending on the kind of project that you're on. Technical workflow and backups. Nobody notices this part of the job until something suddenly goes wrong, which inevitably it kind of always does at some point. But luckily, when and if it does, you are the one that gets to come in and save the day. Because you have managed all of the backups from the start, you know where everything is, and in case a drive has failed, you know how to get the backup and how to relink everything back to the main project. So you're ensuring that there are, one, multiple backups, whether on hard physical drives or on cloud platforms. And then relinking media is another responsibility that is part of this. If someone has accidentally moved a file, of course, that's going to mean we get the dreaded media offline warning in our software. And that can be fixed easily as long as you know where that file was moved to and how to either move it back or relink it to its new location if needed. Again, it's all connected with you being hyper aware of where all the footage is, where backups are, where everything is in the project. You really are, again, the librarian of the project. And then moving to the final stretch of the project. When you're at the finish line and you have the final export ready to go, your job also may include cleaning up all of these folders, cleaning up the project, removing unused assets, ensuring that all of the export files are labeled correctly. Again, a lot of it can feel like grunt work, but it is part of the job to ensure that everything flows smoothly. Tools of the trade. Now, you don't need to be a wizard in every editing program. However, you may need to jump through a couple depending on what the lead editor's preferences are. The gold standard for the movie and TV industry is still currently Avid. And so if you are interested in being in this world, it's best to learn that first. Especially because, in my opinion, I do think that Avid works a little bit differently than, say, Adobe Premiere or DaVinci. But Adobe Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Final Cut are still all in the mix for video editing, even on bigger projects. But mainly for smaller creators or companies, they're usually working with those kinds of platforms. So what's the real skill here then? Well, I say that being able to adapt and learn very quickly is the biggest skill here. If it takes you ages to open a new software and learn your way around a timeline, it's not going to be advantageous for you to be in this career. But if you are curious, adaptable, and have learning resources available to you to learn quickly as an assistant video editor, you will probably thrive in this career. Now, in this video, we've already talked a lot about media management. And so I do think that also learning your codecs, understanding them, understanding how they work, how they affect projects, I do think that that is going to be an important thing for you to learn as well. Now, while I am not a codec master, I do think it is important for you to know your video editing terms. So I did just make a video on this, so I would definitely check it out next if I were you, all about the video editing terms that I think that you should know. And yes, codecs and resolution info is in there. So then kind of along with that is understanding proxy workflows. Let's say you're working with a massive 4K project with 6 different multicams. It's going to be important for you to know, one, how to do multicam editing, and two, how to create and work with lower resolution files, i.e. proxies, to keep the project working smoothly while also being able to get your rough cuts done if needed. So as far as skills goes, that was kind of the more like technical aspects of the job. There are a lot of soft skills that go into becoming an assistant video editor, and communication is probably the number one. Assistant editors are the bridges between the lead editors, the producers, the directors, the camera operators, the sound designers. So being able to manage all of those people and make sure that they are communicating and you are communicating with them is going to be a superpower here, because things can just as easily go sideways if someone is left not in the know, or someone needed to say something to the lead video editor and they told you and you forgot to tell them. That alone can ruin your career potentially. Also a soft skill, being able to stay cool under pressure. You're going to be faced with hard deadlines. You're going to be faced with work pressure. You're going to be faced with edit requests, and you need to stay cool in all of that and just get the work done. Even your lead editor might suddenly change an entire scene overnight, and you now suddenly have to set the stage for that in terms of providing new assets for them, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches. So being able to pivot fast without panicking, that's gonna be gold. So how to become an assistant video editor? I think the key to this is getting your foot in the door, because once you meet people in the post-production space, as long as you are ready and willing to work with them and you have a good personality and they like working with you, they're gonna keep you in mind when open roles pop up that they know about, whether they are a fellow assistant video editor or they are a lead editor. Now, I will note that being an assistant editor can sometimes be a remote, but I think more often than not, it is still an in-person job. And so it is one of those things where you may need to live in an area that has a lot of post-production access, I guess, i.e. somewhere like New York or LA. But circling back to all of that, getting your foot in the door is the most important thing. And so what are some jobs that you can be on the lookout for when you are looking for jobs online? Look for post-production assistant. That is a great way to get started in that space and to meet actual editors. You can also look for a junior editor role or, of course, an assistant editor role. Having editing experience, of course, is going to help you in this, whether you were just editing smaller things or maybe you were editing for actual companies. It is going to be important for them to know that you have edited before and that you know your way around a timeline. So there's a couple sites that you can try looking for assistant editing roles. Some of them are Mandy.com, Staff Me Up, Production Hub, LinkedIn, and Upwork. It's going to be hard to find these jobs, and especially in this competitive space that we're in, I think that word of mouth and networking is still going to benefit you greatly, but at least some of these sites will get you started. Are you an assistant video editor, or do you have an assistant video editor? I would love to hear your thoughts on this video. If you have your own insights or advice for other editors out there, I'd love to hear it. If you could leave it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe for more tips on video editing and freelance lifestyle. Please like this video if you haven't already. Thank you so much to my team. I am Colleen, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Have the best one.